Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Thanks so much for coming out. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. If everybody could move forward to empty seats. We're going to have a full house. Please fill all the seats in the front. Come on up to the front. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we'll be getting started in a few minutes. But if you don't mind, if you have an empty seat next to you, please move on over. We have a packed house. Please do not leave any empty seats in between. We want to make sure that everybody has a chance to sit and attend. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out on a Wednesday. Great to have everybody here. We've got a fantastic panel for you. We've got many of the filmmakers from Indeed's program, and tonight we'll be talking about shaping the future. And we'll have the filmmakers discuss their films, and we've got Sandro to moderate and introduce. So please take it away, Sandro. Give him a welcome.
Welcome, Holly Shorts, and hello. This is less a panel, more a journey into the future. But what does that future look like for an industry where the doors are still closed to too many? I'm as interested as you are to sort of find out where this is going. As a champion of new talent via BAFTA and other organizations over the years, I found that filmmaking is very much like sport. There's so many people good enough to put the ball in the goal, but you need someone to pass you that ball in the first place. How do you get those opportunities? Discussing that with us tonight is an expert panel of rising star filmmakers who'll briefly introduce themselves now.
My name is Omar Kamara, so I'm the writer director originally from here. Okay, click it on. There you go.
There you go. It's not on. Okay. Hello, hello everyone. My name is Omar Kamara. I'm a writer director originally from Virginia, and I'm also the proud son of Sierra Leonean immigrants. So shout out to Salone. My film is called Bitterleaf, and I'm excited to talk more about it today.
Hey everyone, my name is Manuel del Valle. I am from Mexico. I've been here in LA for a couple of years now, and my film was In the Fold, was the first one in the block, and I'm super excited to talk about the program itself, the future of work, and the film.
We're sharing a mic. Hi, I'm Wes Goodrich. I'm the director of Meal Ticket. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, so very far away from here. And I'm excited to talk to you guys about movies and representation and all that good stuff.
I was hoping it's going this way. Hi, hi. My name is Robin Thakau Dench. I'm also from New York, but living here. The name of my film is Fireline. That's it. And thank you for joining us.
And hi, my name is Mercedes Arturo. I'm from Argentina, so even further than you, Wes. I'm the director of Back Home. It was the last one, if you saw it. Happy to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Yu. I'm the writer director of Endling, the Goldfish film. And yeah, just thank you guys all for being here. Super excited.
Hi, everyone. Okay, it's going to get a little bit confusing because it's Kelly Yu. I'm Kelly Liu. And this is my twin brother. He'll introduce himself, but I'm Kelly Liu, co-writer, co-director of Technicians. Hey, y'all. Thank you all for being here. I'm Kevin Liu, the other writer, director of Technicians.
Hi, I'm Constanza Castro. I'm from 271 Films, one of the partners of Indeed Rising Voices alongside Indeed and Hillman Grad. So very happy to be here.
Welcome all, and welcome to you. Same question for each of you. From your own perspective, as you look to sort of build your dreams, how do you personally envision the future of filmmaking work over the next few years? And from your perspective, what changes still need to be made to create opportunities for all?
That's a very big question. I think
You've got 90 seconds.
90 seconds, yeah. I think for me, I think one of the things that's like really inspiring and encouraging about like this block of films that you see today, I know all the filmmakers personally, but to see all of their personal experience reflected in the work is something that's like just inspiring to me because like I know this about Kelly, I know this about Kevin, I know this about Rob, and I know how they're putting their personal experiences on the screen. So I think for me, I just want to keep putting more of myself and my culture on the screen, conversations I have with my family, with my siblings. I want to put that more into my story. So the future of work is, for me, is doing that. And I started on the indie space, but ideally to keep growing to the commercial space, to do these, bring these stories to more mainstream audiences. And then in terms of what I think needs to change, is more programs and opportunities like this that actually give us money to make these films. That's one of the hardest things about filmmaking, is finding financing to do it. I feel like half of our job is begging people, please, 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 give me the chance. And so for like Indeed and for 271 to give us an opportunity to make these films from our perspective, I mean, more people need to be, putting their money where their mouth is like they are, to allow us these opportunities. So it's just great.
I feel like that's a very big question that I mean, we could like talk for hours about it, but if I were to choose a topic that I feel like is very relevant, it comes down to education. Um, I am very hopeful that filmmaking education is not just about the art form, but about the sustainability of it all as a creator, you know? I feel like in today's time, there's a lot more consciousness about mental health and just well-being, but I believe that there's a misconception that in order to be successful, you gotta push yourself to a level that that you stop taking care of yourself. And I kind of wish that in the future, film education promotes that it's not a matter of pushing yourself too hard, but it's a matter of finding the balance so that you understand that living your personal life informs your work and informs your practice. And I came from Mexico to the U.S. and when I started, I just thought that I had to go to sleep at 4 a.m. and wake up at 6 a.m. and go to class and then produce and write and I started to realize that my career started to flourish when I understood that I just needed to make connection with people and engage with community and to be truthful about my needs. So um, my hope is that there's more education about mental health in the film industry, but also I promise I won't be speaking for too long. I'm hopeful that just like Omar was saying, it's easy to check mark to give inspiration to people about how to do their careers, but something that really has so much value is to put your how do you say it in English? The
Money where your mouth is.
money where your mouth is, and actually open up these opportunities. And this program specifically, I love that it encourages intentional storytelling. They give you a question: what is the future of work? So it's no longer about you projecting just this story that you have in your head. It's how can I make this film impactful in a way, you know? So yeah, I just love this program, and I hope there's a better future for all of us.
I think it's a good question because I think there's been a lot of talk about American film specifically being in a bad place, and people not going to the movies anymore, and people under 25 don't want to go to the movies, and all these different things. And I actually don't think that any of that's the case. I think what's actually happening is people that used to make movies, which are primarily old white guys and who are affluent and can afford to take 10 years and not work and make movies, those guys are getting old. And they're also not, younger people are not as interested in what they're making and what their voices are making because younger people are thinking, well, I want to see myself up there and I don't see myself up there. You know, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Like, black kids will pop into a movie theater if they feel like the movie is talking to them. And right now, I don't think there's enough people talking to them. So I think the future of filmmaking is taking the tools that we have developed over the last 100 years of movies being made and putting them into new hands and putting them into hands of specific people and not just going, well, Spike Lee exists, so like we're good on the black thing, like we're okay. Like I think it's like Spike Lee has a specific black story, and there are 20 other people with different stories that we can give $5 million to and see what they do. And if some of them fail, that's okay because a bunch of them won't. You know what I mean? So I think like the future of filmmaking is what we're doing here, and hopefully what will be continue to be done. So
So I'm actually going to put this one on the audience, which is I think that there's so much out there between Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and Apple that we don't go to the theaters as much as we used to. And we drive to the theaters to go see Wolverine and Twisters, but I challenge myself and I challenge everyone I know, if you go see one of those movies, go see Dee Dee, go see Sing Sing, see the smaller films that speak to these stories that we're all passionate about. And even if you don't like them, just buy a ticket. And when you do like them, tell people. And I think that sends a message to the powers that have green light ability to sort of say, let's take a chance.
Yeah, I think you got amazing answers already. Someone said at the Oscars, something like less movies of 200 million and much more, many more of 2 million. And I think that is what needs to change. More voices and more specific voices from different communities and different ages too will have the opportunity to film if the money is split in a different way. Me as an audience, for instance, I don't want to watch another superhero, another Alien 45. Just like I need, you know, news, something new. So I wonder if it's the same that is happening to the rest of the people. That's why the numbers are apparently not so good.
Yeah, I think everyone's had really good answers about the future of filmmaking and work. I guess more specifically, I think when I think of the future of work, I think it would be remiss to not acknowledge AI and how AI is not going away. And these new technologies that are emerging are not going to go away. And I think a lot of, unfortunately, in the wrong hands of people with power and money and studios, especially, who are always looking to cost cut at the expense of personal storytelling and humanity. I do think that a lot of that is going to happen. But I think someone put it really well, or someone did an experiment where they typed in to like one of those AI generators, show me examples of generate me posters of coming of age movies, and every poster that came out was white. And I think that person said, like, if you think about it, like, we are training this AI that is going to be used for generations to come, and all it has is years and years and decades of pre-existing material where everything is the same and people look the same in movies, and that is just the database of history that this new technology is going to learn and think that, and apply to their definitions of what is a coming of age film, what is a drama, what is, when you put in, give me an actress and everything is white, everyone is white. So I think it's also making films that are representing a diverse definition of what, a coming of age film can look like or a romance film can look like, and embracing, the fact that we also are contributing to what this technology is going to be drawing upon and defining in the years to come. So that's just something I've been thinking about.
Oh wow. I think the crux of like going last is every answer is so perfect. I'm gonna take a little piece of everyone. No, Kevin and I always talk about like our favorite part of watching any movie, whether it be in the theater or at home, is a conversation you have afterwards. And it's the one you have on the car ride home, or it's the one you have like you literally just shut off your streaming whatever, Netflix or whatever, and you just talk about what you just experienced. And I feel like what most films nowadays are being made are missing is the focus on the humanity and the heart. Like what is that thing that connects people together and makes them resonate and relate? And I think this group especially, as you guys have seen with the 10 films, like they all had so much heart in it, and they all had so much vulnerability. And I think there's going to be a bubble with this AI and these spectacles that just kind of make you feel something for a moment. I think it's going to get to a point where audiences are going to want to feel something more intimate. And I think the future is in good hands with these filmmakers, especially because if they continue making the movies that they're making currently, I think, years from now, we're going to start getting the films that we want to watch in theaters, spectacle with heart, and indie films. That's my hope anyway. So, Kevin? Do I have to answer as well? Okay. Goodness. Okay.
It's all about,
I
the
think
question was your individual perspective. So what's your
Understood.
perspective?
Gosh, I guess, especially since I'm going last, I feel like everyone had such wonderful answers. Um, for our film, we talked a lot about how the future of work is just really out of our control. And I think a lot of that resonates today. Like everything is just changing so fast. It's like you're spinning your head trying to make sense of it. And I just want to, I guess, speak on I think the future is really important. The future film is very important, but it requires us to like be present now and like be mindful of who we are as artists today. And I think for some of us out there, I don't know how many, I'll speak for myself, it's like you get so worried about the landscape and the industry and everything's changing. You're trying to game it, you're trying to, read the tea leaves, and then you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't make this movie. I should do this or this. And it kind of gets in the way of the creative process and the creative flow. So I guess that to me, I feel like the future of cinema requires us to be really present and mindful of who you are today and write for who you are today or direct or find projects that speak to who you are today and try not to worry too much. Be informed, but try not to worry too much about where the landscape is going because I think it could be a little paralyzing. So, and I say that out loud as I say it to myself every day. You know what I mean? So that's it.
And Constanza is indeed. As you and the team at 271 are helping shape the future for these filmmakers here, how do you reflect on the answers you've just heard?
I mean, it's truth. It's like, I think it comes down to money and opportunity. And so when I think about my ideal sort of future of Hollywood, I hope that it's not very distant. I hope that it comes down to giving real money to the stories of the people, because I think that that is a key that either sets you up for success or for failure. That I think that if the marketing budgets of stories by people of color with people of color were given the same amount of money and the same amount of resources and the same amount of marketing and publicity that it does, Hollywood has the power to shape who becomes a star. I think that that is like truly, I mean, I was talking to a friend earlier. It's like anyone with the right amount of team, people, and backing up can succeed. And I think that the reason why it's taking longer is because at the core, the decision makers don't believe in our stories or are fearful of our stories. And I think until that changes, like inside, and we're not checking boxes, because I'm a little tired of like, oh, we'll give you a little money or we'll give you, an opportunity. Like it's like, no, 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 just treat like it's equity. And I think that when the money changes, opportunity changes, lifestyle changes, and then sustainability of filmmakers' lives changes. And I think that that for me would be like the ideal sort of pathway into believing in the stories that we're telling. And like you just watched 10 incredible films from different perspectives, by different filmmakers from different backgrounds that are all so incredibly powerful.
It's It's so interesting what you've said about wanting to be the engines of change, but also the state of the industry. How do each of you balance the expectations of representing your communities, while at the same time uh, following the desire to tell the kind of universal stories that will connect with large international audiences, which may or may not have to do with your identity? We can start at the other end.
Okay. Um,
Sorry, you lost out again.
I think it took me a long time to realize that the more personal we go with our stories, the more vulnerable we are, the more relatable it is. At my age, I'm not going to say my age, I'm not going to do it, but I think it just took me a while as a filmmaker to learn my voice and learn that it's okay to do something. I mean, we made a story about a nail salon, about a nail technician, and our mom is a nail technician, and our sister-in-law, and it goes on and on. But at the end of the day, I think people relate to it because it's a story about someone and their purpose, and everyone can relate to their purpose being taken away. So, yeah, I guess that's my answer. I'm sorry, I forgot your question. I'm going to hand it to Kevin, and then he will clean up. Thank you.
It was
Look
about
at
balancing the expectations of representing your community with telling the stories the industry and the audiences want to see.
that's a great question. It was very important for us to be mindful of, how we present our film, even ourselves. Like, we're not, like, missing the fact that there's not a lot of Vietnamese American filmmakers to get opportunities like this and to make a film and see a crowd and be sitting in front of a room full of just wonderful people who are interested. So we're very mindful of how we present ourselves, and we try to stay educated, and we try to find what hasn't been said about our community yet, and the way that it's been said. We wrote. I remember we wrote a script, a feature, and there was an altercation between an Asian American man and a Caucasian man. And the note we got back from someone, which still resonates with me, was what's the 2024 version of this conversation? Because you have to be mindful of what has already been done, and what people have already seen. And it was challenging, but it's also really exciting. You get to, find a new avenue to make it refreshing and make it a different perspective, So um, for us, we don't take it lightly, and we're very proud of the fact that we get to be here and be able to represent our community, and we just do our best to stay informed of what's already out there and what's already been said, and how do we say it differently.
Yeah, I mean, echoing everything that they said, I totally agree with that. I think for me, I've always thought that representation can come in many different forms. And I think obviously there are amazing stories that I guess specifically to me, or like, oh, this is very Asian American, or like this is about Chinese culture, and this is set in China, or this is set in like, growing up Asian American. And I think those stories are really important. But then, I'm also really interested in genre or in science fiction or a movie where, it just happens to be a really great story that happens to have an Asian lead, and it doesn't have to be completely about that. And I think sometimes representation can be used almost in a way that is harmful, where sometimes I am questioned of like, well, your story doesn't check these boxes, and like, where's the cultural aspect, and where are some certain tropes that I think have been a little overused and harmful. I think in Asian culture, it's like the stinky lunchbox, or like the abusive mom, the tiger mom, and I think um, I just think the definition of representation can come in many different forms, and I think a story that just where you know characters and storylines and even who we cast and who we put behind the camera and in front of the camera can come in many different forms, and just letting a story be a story that happens to have diverse people working on it, I think is also a really powerful form of representation.
So it's a big question for me as an immigrant woman. I came to this country being almost 40 years old, so kind of fully baked. And as an artist, you are permeable, and there are more things that can change a little bit your recipe, but you're still there. So I think the expectations are, I put them outside. The expectations are not mine. And especially in America, I think the labels are very heavy. It's not how we live outside of this country, these issues. So I'm an artist, I'm a woman, I'm many more things aside from being an immigrant, aside from being Latin America. And Latin America is over 30 countries. So, I cannot represent the whole continent. But what I do think is that the most authentic I am, the most true to what I want to say, that is more universal. And then if I'm educated enough, I'm not buying the infant, this is a very hard word for me, but infantilizing kind of cinema that everybody is blonde with blue eyes and everything is glossy and shiny. Then you look around and look at this room. Everybody has a different shape and color and age and style and everything. So at the end, this is the truth. It's not it's not buying what we're given. It's just finding inside what we are, and that's gonna be representative enough.
So I started. kind of fell in love with movies when I was 14 years old. And this is back in the days when like Netflix would send you DVDs. Sorry, I like to whisper. This is back in the days when Netflix would send DVDs, and you get 3 DVDs per week for like, I don't know, $5. Um, and I started to fall in love with this art form and all these different films. And I was looking for films that would fit into my criteria of taste, but with also characters that kind of looked like me or looked like my mom or looked like my sister, and they just did not really exist. And I'm really happy that that's sort of starting to change, especially in the last 10 years. But for me, it's always been this sort of deficit of storytelling that, Crazy Rich Asians came out, and the whole family went to go see it. And my mom loves it. My cousin hates it. Hates that movie with a passion. And it was one of those moments where it's like, why could you, how could you stand to watch it? And I go, there's not enough. It's not that this movie is whether it's good or bad. It's just like there's not enough of films that of folks that look like us. So regardless of your opinion, it goes back to my previous point. Just support it because I think, if you look at everyone here, everyone's story is so dramatically different, but at the core of it, there is something that is unique that you would not see in a major motion picture in a theater right now. So that's really special.
Okay. Uh, I think my film professor in undergrad in an early cinema class that I took said, we're not making motion pictures, we're making emotion pictures. And that really stuck to me. And I continue to think about it. And every time I'm reading, think when you write anything, wherever you're from, whatever your background is, you're writing emotional beats and you're taking an audience through things that are universal, which are our emotions. I mean, Pixar just went, with Inside Out. How you look at that film and you're like, yeah, that's so simple. It's joy, fear, anger, anxiety, like all of these things. And so I think for me, it's like you bring your own experience into whatever it is that you're wanting to explore. You're like molding this thing. You're the artist. No one will be able to tell the story in the same way. All these filmmakers could be making the same script and they would be completely different stories. But at the core, I think what makes them universal is that you're being honest and truthful and taking an audience through an emotional journey. And I think for me, that's what I look for when I read a script. It's like, is this making me feel things in like my stomach? Am I feeling something as I'm reading this? And so that's all I look for.
So that was a big part of the selection process when you had all these applications and you had to whittle them down to these. It all comes down to emotion at the end of the day. Good lesson for all of us.
Sorry? What was the last thing? Sorry.
Yeah. So define the other things that you used. When you had this huge selection process for this program, was emotion above all things.
100%, because and indeed Hillman and 271 are super involved in the selection process, which makes it super like a very incredible partnership, where we had about 900 submissions this year, and from that 900 we trickle it down to top 75, and then from there, and we're all reading all of these scripts. And I think at the core, what makes these 10 films rise to the top is that they're all are speaking honestly about a very specific experience. You can just tell when you're reading what's honest and what's not. And I think that for me, kind of like going back to reading all of these scripts, it's that how I'm like feeling these things as I'm reading, because it starts at the script. If you want to fix it in post, you have problems. Like you need the script to be able to take the reader through this journey.
So let's return to the question for our filmmakers. I mean, you were talking before about Brooklyn. Let's talk about the importance of representing your community. But again, you spelled out the state of the industry as well. So just elaborate on that balance.
Oh man, this is being filmed, so people in Brooklyn could see it theoretically. They're not gonna watch it. I would say, like, I think Kevin said it, and I think Kelly also alluded to it. the only way to tell a story that makes sense to you individually as an artist is to be honest, and to be specific. You can't really worry about. I think you need to worry about, like, am I disrespecting my community with this? But I don't think you need to be worrying about, am I representing every single person who's ever come up behind me and before me? Like, you just can't do that. Like, you just got to be specific. You got to be honest. Um, and then people resonate with your movie, whether or not they like hip hop or whether or not they've ever stepped foot in Brooklyn. Like, that's why I love, like, Omar's film. I'm the son of immigrants, and I really relate to the idea that your parents busted their ass in this country to get you where you are. Like, that's really an emotional story for me. Like, Tender Thoughts is another one. Andy's not here. But everyone who's in the corporate world is like, yeah, man, I work really hard at this job and I feel like I'm not a person anymore. And these are just like specific stories. They were just being honest.
That's a good one. Honestly, I would like to give like a very concrete answer, but I am confused. Like I have conflicting feelings because echoing what Kelly said, representation can be both a suit of armor and a weapon against you because we are we are taken as sometimes honestly as an opportunity to say, oh, you are a Latino filmmakers, there you go, go to the Latino corner to make your Latino films, and it is truly like that. And sometimes um, and it's not only in the filmmaking space, it's in the educational space. It's, if I go to a festival and I'm talking to someone that is telling me, hey, I'm going to give a talk, I can immediately say, oh, it's about representation, right? Because it is, we're speaking about it, and it's definitely doing something good for our industry. But we also need Latino people talking about the importance of BFX in the independent space, for example. We need Latinos in technical spaces. We need Latinos and people from different backgrounds in independent in different spaces that are more technical. We need to show that we are here not just to play in the space where we belong, but also just as it's a weapon, it's a tool. Because honestly, like, I am, the programs that I've been a part of, most of them target diversity, and I have opened so many opportunities for me, but also for the people that are not here. I mean, I consider myself to be extremely privileged to be in a city where I go to a coffee shop and I have the opportunity to meet these big time producers that will maybe give me a chance. But a lot of the people that worked in my film, a lot of the people, my co-writer, she's from Mexico, and she lives in my town where I grew up, where there's not too much industry. And the joy that I had to have this collaborator that grew up with me, being able to be premiere at Tribeca, and she was she called me before Holy Shirts, and she was like, "Wow, I'm so excited! All my family is waiting for you to send me pictures about the premiere." That's what is really beautiful about it. It's also a weapon for us to use, because it's not only about our opportunities, but the web of opportunities that we create around us. So let's not just settle with, hey, I got into this diversity program, yay, I'm happy with it. It's okay, what can I do so that my surrounding people come into this as DP, producer, BFX artist, not just as a literal representation of diversity that we are often putting. I don't know if that makes sense. It's just I have conflicting feelings. I don't know exactly what to say.
Yeah, And I think everyone answered so beautifully. So I think what I'll just say is like I personally am trying to shed that in terms of shed the idea that it's my responsibility to be the African filmmaker. Like there's so many different African filmmakers. I'm just an African filmmaker, but I'm not the African filmmaker. And I think that also like, black people are not a monolith. Africans are not a monolith. My parents are born and raised in Sierra Leone, but I was born here in the States. So my experience of being Sierra Leonean is very different than my cousins who were born and living there. It's very different than my Nigerian friends and my Ghanaian friends. So when I try to make my films, I'm literally speaking to my experience of what I know based off the conversation that I've had. And for me, since I know that I'm telling my truth authentically, then like I don't have to worry about the pressure of am I being the filmmaker overall? Because I'm like, well, I'm telling you this true for me. This is very, very true for me. And I think as the final button is kind of like what everyone's been alluding to, which is also like the more specific, the more universal. Like I tell stories about Africans and first generation Africans, and I literally have people from all different backgrounds come to me and be like, "That's what my dad said to me. That's what my mom said to me. My sister said that to me." And that's been one of the most rewarding things about having the festival journey is meeting people from different backgrounds who see themselves in your films. And so just tell your true story, and then the rest will take care of itself.
I'll be inviting audience questions in about 10 minutes, but first a couple more from the stage. We can't talk about the future of film work without addressing AI, which has been mentioned from the stage. Is it going to kill the careers of everyone on the stage, or is it going to enhance them? This doesn't have to be for everybody, but if anyone's got any particular strong feelings about this, is there anything that excites or worries you about AI?
You said something about AI earlier. I thought you got it.
To open that.
Yeah.
You started it.
All I say is to cite a specific example on my film Endling. It's a fictional documentary that we were trying to present as a real documentary, and my intention was to open the film on a flurry of archival sequences that maybe trick you into thinking that they were real. And a lot of that was, how can we put in fake archival news clips or photographs without having access to that and having the money as an indie filmmaker to create that from scratch. And I think that's a luxury that a lot of small or upcoming or independent low budget filmmakers don't have. They don't have the money to go out and recreate a whole set piece or to go on location or to shoot. And I think in those cases, like there were instances where we utilized a mix of taking original material that we had and maybe using new technology to, add something here and there to help the creative process. And I think in those instances, I think it can be a really good tool for filmmakers who may not have the resource to kind of showcase their intended vision. But I think it can also be used for evil in a lot of ways, and especially in the film industry where so much of it, like I mentioned, is cost cutting, and it's, how can we make things cheap as possible? And I think we have to differentiate that, and I think we have to understand it and learn it. But I think there are specific instances where it can be used for good and to for creativity and for storytelling. So
So if you saw Fireline, obviously there's a really big fire sequence, and one question you might ask, did we use AI to do the effects? Because we had 2.5 weeks to do it, and we talked about it for 2 days, and very quickly decided that it was not the pathway. And I want to have Celeste, our VFX artist, stand up for just a second. She single-handedly did every single fire shot in the film with no AI, no additional computer help other than her own taste. And I think when it comes to the AI question, taste will trump um, plagiarism, for lack of a better term. And so I just want to use that as an example of taste over copycats.
Great answer. Yeah, I feel like it's definitely a weird double-edged sword because I see it as a tool. Like I'd be so happy if my little cousin made a short and it looked amazing and he used AI and I was like, "Bro, you did such a good job." Like it's I don't want to be the old guy who's like shaking his fist and being like, "No, why'd you?" But you also have to think about people's what Oh, Robin. Robin and I are on different sides apparently. No, I think, but I do understand. It's we're talking about people's jobs. We're talking about people's livelihoods. I think we, as the audience, just have to be very vocal with what it is, which is it's a very soulless technology. Like I saw someone post up a really fake trailer for a movie, and they're like, "Oh, Hollywood's gonna be shaking," and like the comments were like, "This is awful. It doesn't look real at all. Who's shaking? Like, what are you talking about?" And I was like, "Yes, like that's what we need to do is recognize that there's something missing from this, and that's just the human element." So it is a tool, and it's going to take someone who is in a higher position than me, like Khan says, just someone who is the gatekeeper, who's hopefully going to make it more vocal on, like kind of through themselves because their voice is a little louder. And hopefully the audiences will, recognize it and we all see it as, the transition from typewriter to computer. It'll make things easier, but we still need that human touch. So yeah.
Were you talking about the Dwayne the Rock Johnson as the Tarzan?
I did. Yes, that is
trailer
it.
is wild.
Okay, we have the same
Look
for
it
you
up.
page
That's
apparently.
the AI trailer.
Anyone else want to weigh in on AI before we go to the audience? Okay, audience questions, please. I'll take them in the order that I see them. Please raise your hand. I'll go to you first and then you. Okay, yes.
AI. When is a good time to use AI? I know that intro filmmakers can use it to create a pitch deck, to create like some ideas. If you don't, before you have money to hire someone to do that, a director has no skills can like do some sketches, and then once you get it greenlit, then you pay the people to do the thing. Like when is it okay and when is it not okay? When can you use it? Because as young, indie filmmakers, you don't have the budgets for all the big special effects or the big stuff. So
When is it okay and when is it not okay to use AI? And let's hear it answered by somebody who didn't speak in the previous section. So yes, take it away.
Speaking about decks, I love AI as a tool on an educational side. I feel like it's people that do not have access to a lot of um, being on set or do not have access to an instructor that will give them notes. Sometimes it's good to have like a back and forth conversation in a way that if the person is alert that it's not someone that has years of experience of their own and their own taste. But for example, for me, AI in a deck personally is a no-no because for me, a deck represents how you envision the film before you even have the resources. For me personally, when I see AI in a deck, it really brings me back a little bit, and I question the person making the content because I truly believe I'm going to put an example. Currently, I am doing a stop motion film. I've never done stop motion. I've done a lot of live action. I love stop motion. I fell in love with filmmaking. I understood the concepts of camera blocking, shots per frames per second, and all of that through stop motion. So I had a passion for it, but I've never done stop motion. And the way that I got people that are leaders in the stop motion industry to come into my project is for me to show a legitimately deep in style, tone, character design deck to them. So I truly believe that if you want to step up as a creator and get opportunities, a lot of people say, I don't have the resources for it. And it's true, you need a lot of money to bring projects off the ground, but to make a deck, there's so much references, content online, and Shotdeck is an amazing tool, for example. And the creators get benefited from that. If if you want to show that you can be a good director, you need to make a deck that feels like it's the marketing material for your finished piece. And that's something that I really tell people, and it's a practice that I have because that shows that you can direct. Having a film camera or not, if you give a tone and style to a thing that feels cohesive, and um, if you put the whole design and heart into it, like if you were directing that deck, that will generate a lot of trust in people that see your material. But when you start bringing in AI images, I feel like that devalues a little bit the vision that you are bringing to the people that you're showing your material. Maybe I'm saying that because I suck at collaborating with AI. Every time that I ask for something, it gives me something completely different. So when I see a deck that has like a images, I'm like, oh, this guy closed his eyes and gave a couple of notes and he showed them that, and then he took that vision and said, this is my vision, you know? So again, just my advice is you don't have the money to make a film, go and invest hours and hours and hours to make a deck that you can bring to people and say, hey, here you go. This is my project. I'm currently doing my first feature. I didn't have a script when I signed for the project. I had a deck that I had been developing for 2 years. And every single image I scrolled through hours and hours and hours on Shot Deck, and that shows that you put heart into your deck. So I highly discourage using AI on pitch material. That's just my personal opinion.
Thank you for your question, and thanks for your great answers. Like a masterclass in here. Now, the next question was over here. Yes.
Hey, East Flatbush. What's up, man?
Just wait for the microphone. It's coming to you if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
So I love a good New York story, Brooklyn story, like everyone else, because we all have our own perspectives, born there from immigrant parents as well. But we find so much of it now because of the tax incentive is built at that $1 million minimum spend. These projects go to Canada, they go to Tennessee, Kentucky. What can independents, and this is a tough one, what can independents do as a rallying together so we can be noticed? There should be maybe a separate part of that tax incentive to go to the independents where we can all tell our stories. Like, what are your thoughts on how we can come together for that?
That's a great. You said Brooklyn. I thought I was able to just slam dunk the question. Um, that's a really good point. I mean, I think it's tough filming. I literally just spoke to someone yesterday about how filming has become tough in New York and LA specifically. So we're kind of moving to, I mean, we've always kind of been in Canada, but Atlanta is kind of the big one that we've moved to, and there's stages in London now and all these different things. I think I, a lot of this comes back to resources, I think. Like indie film is in a really weird place, fiscally speaking. And I know a lot of New York filmmakers who are really struggling because they want to make New York movies. And like, it's not 1990 where like Martin Scorsese could kind of just take a camera and say fuck permits and kind of go around. Um, I would say that there needs to be a better infrastructure for indie filmmakers making their first feature for $1 million and under. I would even say that New York City specifically, I'm not a huge fan of the administration in New York, but hey, you know. But I think that there needs to be something on the city level that incentivizes young filmmakers to make micro budget features in New York. And I think in the long run, it'll pay out and help the city out. I think there isn't really a major infrastructure right now for first time filmmakers. It is if you're a big film, if you're Noah Baumbach and you want to come and shoot in Brooklyn, but not if you're a kid in NYU who's trying to scrape some money together to make a movie. So
Thank you. I just want to follow up on something you said. It was about the rise of streaming. Now, is that creating more opportunities for new voices, or is the rise of streaming reinforcing existing inequities in your experience?
Um, well, I want to answer something really quickly on this end, which is someone put this. One of the reasons why I think a lot of production is going to end up going overseas in the next couple of years, regardless of what happens, whether it's New York or local markets, is you have countries that have universal health care. And in our country, every dollar you spend on an individual employee, you spend another dollar for their pension and their health care. And other countries don't have that. And the fact that we, as workers in this country, have to pay for our own health insurance becomes at an additional cost of production. So that's one thing I just wanted to unfortunately
that's really smart.
address. As far as streaming, you're gonna get me in trouble. I think streaming provided I did a movie for Hulu last year or 2 years ago, and I think that streaming has allowed filmmakers from across the board opportunities to make films because there's just so many more movies being made. When I started out as a PA, they were making 30 major features in New York at that time, and it went up to 300 by the mid 2010s. I think now with the contraction that's occurring, it's anyone's guess. But it goes back to my point about I do think a lot of production, unfortunately, will look for new homes as production in the States gets more expensive. And I think it's on us as filmmakers and everyone in the room to sort of fight for the locations that they want to shoot at. And if you feel very strongly that your location is a character, make people know that the location is a character and make it undeniable.
Who wants the last question in the room? Okay, you got it.
Um, Hello, I'm Zanara. I'm an actress. As you can see, I'm a Black actress. As we're talking about diversity, I want to know how you all plan in your films as you continue to make people comfortable who are diverse and who are dealing with different types of people on set. We've had a lot of different things like quiet on the set and things like that. How do you guys plan for yourselves in the future of film to keep people safe mentally, physically, in those types of ways for your actors and your crew members as well? How do you see that going in the future with the new kind of whistleblowing that's been happening the last few years about the industry?
Brilliant question. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I take that incredibly personally on my sets in terms of like if everyone is coming together to tell this story, they're coming together to support this vision and support what we put together. So the people that come on my sets, I want to make sure they leave being like, I love being on Omar's set. It was great. He was easy to work with and all that stuff. And for me, I think it really just starts with the hiring process. Like specifically, like I literally am asking for references on every single person I hire. For me, particularly, it's like the first AD. I think is very important for setting the tone on set. So I need to know, is this person cool? Do they yell? You know, we still got to get the job done. But I want to make sure they're not yelling, they're not being disrespectful, there's not anything happening. So I've been very fortunate that all so far so good, all the vibes have been good, but it's been very intentional about making sure the crew I hire all holds our set to that same standard and wants to make sure that everyone is going home being like, filming's hard, but that was great on Omar's set. Like that's the goal.
I there's a lot there's this I don't know, like in film school I remember hearing all these stories about these directors that are um, amazing artists and but they treat people on the set very terribly, right? And I feel like there's a romanticizing behind the troubled artist that people don't understand, therefore he jails. I directing. I feel like a lot of people are great artists and terrible directors. I don't feel like directing is about the final piece. It's about how you get to that final piece. And we need to hold accountable directors, specifically talking about what I do that I direct, right? That we cannot keep celebrating bad behavior on set, and we cannot just keep going with this troubled, with this troubled idealization or we make troubled artists heroes and we kind of justify their behavior because the film is great, right? But again, that's a good artist, a terrible director. So we need to separate those things. Go get a job and do a sculpture alone if you suck at dealing with people, right? Like directors that yell at people or just producers that yell at people, DPs, actors that yell at people. Oh my God, they need to go in a secure room and paint alone because they're great artists, but they suck at collaborating. So we need to keep that conversation going and stop calling great artists that suck directors.
That's what a privilege it's been to hear from these talented filmmakers today. And as we go away, let's all do everything we can to make the future of work safer, more creative, better, and more equal. Enjoy the rest of Holly Shorts, and thanks for your attention today, everybody.